Has Arsenal peaked too soon? I remember we spoke on Champions Club, but you were saying they haven't won anything yet. You and Grella would that's a key thing. Have they peaked too soon?
I felt that was always going to be a worry for Arsenal, that they're peaking a bit too soon. You want to catch the form at the right time, as we've seen.
Welcome into our CBS Galazzo Matchday studios. I'm Hannah Cash with Nigel Reo-Coker and Troy Deeney. Now, Aston Villa got a last-minute winner to defeat the Premier League leaders Arsenal. So for Villa, it's their 5th consecutive Premier League win as they are well positioned near the top. Second place to me, in fact, 3 points behind Arsenal. To get that 95th-minute winner for Aston Villa was absolutely huge for them, wasn't it, Nigel?
Fantastic win for Aston Villa. Great win for Unai Emery. It's a great win also for the Premier League. For me, it makes the Premier League title race even more fun and exciting. This is what we want to see, a competitive Premier League, and now all the other teams chasing Arsenal can feel that they're alive and in this title race. The big story going into this game today was Arsenal's injuries. Starting to get a lot of injuries coming into this game, and one of Arsenal's biggest strengths for me has been how well and good they have been defensively, looking invincible when it comes to that defensive standpoint. And these players that have been injured, and more so obviously Saliba and Gabriel, who have been the key solid players for Arsenal in that centre-back position, was a big worry. Aston Villa now on the up since Unai Emery has turned things around after a difficult start himself. And then now you start to question Arsenal now, really and truly, can this be a result that turns around their season to make it a very difficult run for this Premier League title?
A big storyline with this Arsenal team, though, is they have the depth, but it's getting to a point now where they're getting so many injuries. You're questioning, is it going to affect their results? Clearly today it did.
I think this happened the last couple of years as well, right? Injuries to key players derailed their season. So obviously they went out in the transfer market, and at the start of the season, they did this thing when they wanted 2 players for every position. And we would argue they've probably got the best squad that's ready-made and suited, ready to go. When you start losing the key players, it doesn't matter who you bring in afterwards, in my opinion. There's the key players for a reason. If Liverpool were to lose Van Dijk last year, it goes awry. If Man City lose Haaland, it goes awry. These key players are that, and Saliba and Gabriel are that for Arsenal, especially in that defensive unit, to Nigel's point. The bit I'm not going to let them get away with is every time it's about making that step in these bigger moments, these bigger games, they just seem to either go draw or fall behind. Today was poor. I think it's the first time this season we can question Arteta's decision making. We spoke about it just before we came on. You bring Trossard on because apparently he's on a minutes restriction. So if he's on a minutes restriction, why would you not wait 5 or 6 minutes? Then Trossard can see you through to the end of the game. He comes on, he has an impact, he scores, he's in a great vein of form at this moment in time. A player they wanted to get rid of, if you remember, at the start of the season. So to see where he's at now, and he's become so valuable on that left-hand side, to take him off at 86 minutes gave the impetus back to Aston Villa, in my opinion. Villa were good. I'm not going to get as carried away as Nigel. Can't do that as I'm a Birmingham City fan anyway, but I can be objective. I still don't think that this Villa team is ready to be pushing for a top 4 consistently due to the lack of depth in the team. Obviously, it's great to see your brother there smiling. Clearly, he got all the looks. But it's in one of these situations where I think Aston Villa are good. They're flying high. Ollie Watkins doing well. In my opinion, one of the most underrated players in Kamara. I think he's fantastic at his position. We talk about Declan Rice, Caicedo. I think he's right up there. I think he's fantastic.
I think, again, it's a great win for Villa. I think when you look at this game again now, the bigger picture still is that question of Arsenal, because Arsenal have been that team that we've been speaking about. And when you start to lose such vital pieces, especially defensive solidity, because to win a Premier League title, you have to be defensively sound. You have to be defensively solid. And now we're starting to see vulnerability in this Arsenal side, and it's not just that, it's also by the great performance that Aston Villa put in. And you look at the chasing teams now that puts Aston Villa second in the Premier League. You look at Manchester City now probably going to start smelling blood. You look at Chelsea as well, even they have their questions and issues, but they have the ability to affect football matches. So it is a bit of a worry for Arsenal now, and especially with a result like this, even though being said that Villa have recently become their bogey team, how are Arsenal going to react? How are they going to solve these problems defensively?
Right? Arsenal have been considered gone through great form. So they're in a great run of form. All of these wonderful stats that we keep hearing week on week. We all think that Man City will get better in terms of their play and can't keep conceding the goals that they are. You'd argue Liverpool should get better. Villa are on a good run of form. Chelsea hopefully will get better. Has Arsenal peaked too soon. I remember we spoke on Champions Club, but you were saying they haven't won anything yet. You and Guella were that's a key thing. Have they peaked too soon?
I felt that was always going to be a worry for Arsenal, that they're peaking a bit too soon. You want to catch the form at the right time, as we've seen for our professional career. That plays the way to go. You know, even for our time to trying to get promoted to the Premier League, you peak at the right time. With Arsenal, you start to worry now that they've peaked too soon. They've lost so many key players. And as Troy says, when you're a key player, you're a star. There's a difference between you being a starter and getting a squad together where you can say, okay, you've got good players who can come in, but they're still not those key players. There's a difference where they're your key players.
There's
and
a
your
confidence
starters.
he gives everybody else.
Yeah, so you do worry for Arsenal. They've definitely still got some tough fixtures to come. You know, they've got to play a Champions League midweek game, and then also they've got Wolves to face, who are fighting for their lives in the Premier League, who can bring all types of different fight.
Look, I'm going to be nice to you. Just put a win. Wolves are terrible, bro. Put a win.
We never know.
If Arsenal lose to Wolves, then the season's over. I'll tell you that now.
Again, it was a great result.
Yeah.
And then now I think what people would say, Hannah, is the question is, are Aston Villa in the title race?
Yeah, I think that is a big question. But also for Arsenal, they've got 2 points in their last 9 away games. So they've got to be pretty worried about their away form. But let's talk about Aston Villa's home form, because,
do we have to?
Like we said, Villa Park was bouncing. Does it put questions now around, could they potentially be in a title race or a top 4 spot in the for the Champions League next year?
I'll let the former Aston Villa captain give you all of the spiel, and then I'll come with some balanced review and some analysis afterwards.
Whether they like it or not, reluctantly, it's fair to say.
They're second in the league.
There you go. The second in the league, 3 points off the top. Reluctantly or not, whether they like it or not, Aston Villa in the Premier League title race. I think it's what Unai Emery would want, and it's credit to Unai Emery for turning their season around, because they had a dreadful start where they didn't even look like a team.
Lost first 5 games, didn't they?
Yeah.
No, exactly. So then now they've turned it around.
Now they've won 5, they're going to win the league.
I wouldn't say they're going to win the league. I would say, when I look at this Aston Villa side, in how Unai Emery has coached them, very much a manager that coaches a lot on formation and positional play. And what he has the luxury of as well is he's got players who can play multiple positions. We've seen Tielemans play alongside Onana in the 2 sitting in the midfield. Today we saw him play in that number 10 role. You've got John McGinn that we've seen play in that number 10 role, or sometimes play out wide. He has the luxury of manipulating or moving these players to play in different positions depending on the opponents. And what he's also doing is being very aggressive with his substitutions. He's no longer sitting back now to try and play for a point. He's playing for that win. There's a lot of confidence in this team right now, and reluctantly, whether they like it or not, they have to be in that conversation. Being second in the Premier League table, 3 points off the top, you'd have to say that they are.
But also with Unai Emery, he's got to be one of the best managers in the Premier League right now, if not the best.
I'd have to say there's no doubt in it. I'd say he's definitely up there in the conversation. You can't doubt in what you've seen and what he's done with Aston Villa. I think it's also a big season for him, just like we talk about Mikel Arteta. I feel we've seen so much progression from Unai Emery, but you have to win something. And I think for me, realistically, if Aston Villa, I'll be looking at the Europa League as the competition to try and win this year, to really make a statement that Unai Emery is taking this club tremendously further in another spot.
And that for me is where they're going to lose it. In terms of, like, I don't actually think they're in the Premier League title race. That's just my opinion. I think there'd be a fantastic season if they finish in the top 4. I really do. I think their depth is not as balanced as most teams would think. For example, if your brother was to go down, I don't think they have a capable right back to go in and do the same thing. It's trying to put round pegs in square holes. I just don't think it fits the same. I also think when you start looking at the striker situation, if Ollie Watkins isn't scoring like he wasn't at the start of the season, we saw the comp there. It's 5 goals in the first 5 games to 21 now in 10. So they score completely differently when he's up and running. But if he was to get injured or go for a bad spell of form, who's the next person to fall on? It's not as nailed on, and I think the European travel and the Thursday night Sundays will start to hit in the second half of the season.
The only thing I will kick back Troy on is maybe the striker situation. I think Ollie Watkins is going through a difficult time right now. If he finds his form, I think that conversation's out the window. Is there a need to bring someone else in? I'll probably say so, yes. In the transfer
They've tried to for
window.
3 years.
I know,
Now,
but I would
for 3
say
years they've been trying to get someone to either compete with Ollie or to replace Ollie.
100%.
So for me, yeah. So
I would still say that, but I still feel their squad is good enough. I feel their squad is good enough, and I think a lot of it is more so to Unai Emery and how he coaches and having the opportunity to be versatile with his players.
I think it's great that we're speaking about it, right? Obviously, ex-Villa captain, played in the Prem. I played in the Prem. You're emotionally involved because we saw you running around here.
Oh, she was really happy today.
How do you feel about it?
I'm over the moon happy about it, obviously.
Yeah? That happy?
Oh my gosh, that's so embarrassing. I was so nervous. Oh gosh, how funny. Do you know what the funny thing was as well? I couldn't even run around because I was attached to the chair with my mics. So I was trying to get up, but I couldn't. Oh no, obviously over the moon. It's always great.
Journalistic integrity,
Look, in all seriousness, Villa are in a good vein of form, right, in the last 10 games. We have to give him credit for that. Unai Emery has turned it around because at the start of the season they looked so disjointed, so unbalanced, especially in that midfield area. I think to go as far as Nigel said they're in a Premier League title race, for me, is too far. It's too far. I think if they keep this up, they're certainly in the conversation for Champions League.
I stand by what I say and I double down on it. Whether they like it or not, where they are in the league doesn't lie. Reluctantly, whether they like it or not, they're in the Premier League title race. And I'll say for Arsenal, looking forward now, it's not the next game so much or against Wolves that you say that is important for Arsenal for a reaction. It's a little bit more further down the line now. Now, will the Arsenal players start to get a little bit nervous with a Manchester City side that's catching form and he's still got a competitive Villa and a competitive Chelsea?
And yeah, that's the biggest point, right, before we wrap this. Man City have to win today. Chelsea have to win today to keep that pressure and that momentum. And that's going to be the big question. We're doing this, obviously, while the other games are happening, and it's an instant reaction. So if Arsenal can be put under pressure, then we're going to see Calafiori looking like he's potentially injured as well. A lot of problems starting to pile up for Mikel Arteta.
OK, things are getting exciting in the Premier League. So Aston Villa 2, Arsenal 1, as the race for the top spot continues.
Aston Villa, 9 wins from 10 and second in the table.
Yep.
Do we have to sit up really and take notice now of this team?
Of course we do. Of course we do. And it was astonishing, their start to the season. We couldn't believe it, how flat they looked. But the manager's a great manager and he's gotten back on track. And Villa Park, with this kind of run now, getting them involved in the game. I actually thought Villa might get them a little bit more involved. Arsenal's football was good enough to kind of quieten that a little bit. But they always looked a threat because of the reasons we talked about before the game, at half-time, and we're going to talk about it now. Arsenal's defence was different and stretched.
Before the game, this gentleman to my left, in case you were still asleep at home, said he felt very relaxed, very comfy about this game. Half-time is a little less comfy. How are you feeling now, Lou Dixon?
Not great.
Not great.
Great for Villa. I mean, let's get that right. They played brilliantly today as far as the game plan and everything and the way they went about that broken up back line, if you like, from Arsenal. And they disappointed me a little bit at the back. I thought they'd be a little bit more structured. If you're going to have players coming in and it's all shaken up because of the best two centre-backs are not there, then I would have I think Arteta maybe got it a little bit wrong. I think maybe I'd have gone, do you know what? Stay as a back four today. And that goes against the grain for him because he's like, no, we're in great form. Let's just put a player in. But they were changing two players. One was coming in at centre-half. White hasn't played a lot of football at right back. So it did disjoint it. Calafiori, who's been absolutely amazing, was all over the place today. Couldn't get his positioning right. And I think they played too high, the two full-backs, and it cost them today. And I think Arteta will look at that and say, maybe we should have just played like that instead of playing like this.
A little bit safer in the way that they play.
Yeah, because they've got enough talent to be able to break a Villa side. And also, if you stay a little bit like that and then draw Villa onto you a little bit at home, the fans would have got behind them and said, no, go and attack. Then there's a few more spaces for Eze. He wasn't in the game in the first half.
Yeah.
So I think they just got it a little bit wrong. I mean, said that, Villa was superb.
Agree with that on Arsenal?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, because if they would have done that, right, and don't win the game, others would have said, well, they should be braver and attack more and go there and win games like that. But I tend to agree. Those defenders in an unfamiliar full back line were showing up.
Mikel Arteta has made it clear that Arsenal will need to unleash their complete player against Bayern Munich. The Gunners host the German champions at the Emirates Stadium on Wednesday, and one man in particular could be decisive. Ebereki Eze, described as a very complete player by teammate Mikel Merino, is emerging as one of Arsenal's most dangerous weapons ahead of their Champions League clash with Bayern. The 27-year-old announced himself in North London with a stunning hat-trick in his first derby since arriving in a £67.5 million move from Crystal Palace. His 3 brilliant goals dismantled Tottenham, and truthfully, he could have scored even more. Mourinho believes every one of Arsenal's 8 summer signings has lifted the squad's level, helping the team build a 6-point lead at the top of the Premier League. But Wednesday's matchup is different. Bayern Munich, the reigning Bundesliga champions, represent the toughest test yet for Arteta's side. Speaking after the win over Spurs, Mourinho praised Iza's qualities and hinted at the impact he could have in such a high-stakes European battle. "We've brought in a lot of players who can make a difference. But you can see that other teams have spent big as well," the Spain international said. "Individual brilliance can win matches, sure, but in the end, it's the team that matters. If you have great players who don't connect, that's a problem." The good thing about this group is that everyone thinks about the team first. When asked about Is specifically, Mourinho didn't hesitate. "I think he's incredibly complete. He can dribble, he can pass, and his technical quality is outstanding. In Spain, we always talk about players who can connect with others. He has that naturally. He grew up with that instinct to link play, move the ball, and build relationships on the pitch. He also has the mindset to get involved, demand the ball, and influence the game. At the same time, he's strong, he can take players on, and he can finish. He's a truly complete signing." Mourinho also touched on how the modern game often reduces players to simple numbers. "These days everyone judges players by goals and assists, that's just how it is. But as footballers, we see the deeper qualities he brings, the technique, the movement, the intelligence. Even in training, you can tell immediately how special he is. Yes, he's scoring goals, but he's much more than that. He's an exceptional player, and we're incredibly lucky to have him. He can play in several positions and adapt to different systems. He's been a huge addition for Arsenal." Beyond the technical qualities, Mourinho believes Iza's attitude, and the healthy competition within the squad, will be crucial in Arsenal's title push. You can hear the calm in Eberechi's voice and see it in the way he carries himself. He's confident, grounded, and every morning we sit together in the sauna at the training ground and talk about everything, he added with a smile. "He's a great guy, already fully integrated, and we need players like him. Competition is fierce. There's so much quality in this squad. That's exactly what the manager wanted, as many top players as possible, all ready to play. It makes his decisions tough, choosing who starts and who doesn't, but it also pushes every one of us to give our best in every session. And that's why we're improving as a team." As Arsenal prepare for Bayern's arrival, Arteta is facing one of the most delicate balancing acts of the season. The squad is healthy, competition is fierce, and expectations have never been higher. But behind the scenes, there is a growing sense that Iza's versatility and calm presence may be essential against a Bayern side known for controlling the tempo in big European nights. Arteta himself has hinted at Iza's importance without naming him directly. After the Tottenham victory, the manager spoke about the need for players who can break pressure, dictate rhythm, and stay composed when the game becomes chaotic. Those inside the club believe those comments were aimed at Is as much as anyone. The coaching staff has been particularly impressed by how quickly he has adapted to Arsenal's positional play structure, a system that demands far more tactical discipline than what he was used to at Crystal Palace. Analysts at the club point to his growing influence not only in the final third, but also in build-up phases, where his ability to glide past pressure could help Arsenal bypass Bayern's aggressive midfield line. There is also an awareness that Bayern's fullbacks tend to push high, leaving spaces between the lines. Iza's skill set, sharp turns, deceptive acceleration, and precise final balls, could be exactly what Arteta needs to exploit those gaps. Outside the club, pundits have already started circling Wednesday's match as a defining moment for the £67.5 million signing. Some believe that if Is can impose himself on a Champions League quarter-final against Bayern Munich, it will confirm his arrival among Europe's elite creative players. Former players have echoed that sentiment. Several ex-Arsenal figures, speaking on television over the weekend, highlighted the need for someone who can change the temperature of the match with a moment of calm or an unexpected burst of creativity. Is, they argued, is one of the few in the squad capable of both. Meanwhile, Bayern Munich come into the match with their own confidence. Their midfield trio has been one of the most dominant in Europe this season, and they have shown a repeated ability to suffocate opponents early. That dynamic is precisely why Arteta may lean on Iza's composure. When the game tightens, Arsenal will need a player capable of slowing it down, protecting the ball, and finding solutions in tight spaces. Within Arsenal's dressing room, Mourinho's praise reflects a broader consensus. Senior players have reportedly been struck by Iza's humility and work ethic, qualities that have helped him integrate seamlessly into a squad that already had strong internal chemistry. Staff members describe him as someone who never forces the game and lets the match come to him, characteristics that could prove invaluable in a high-tension Champions League tie. As kickoff approaches, the narrative surrounding the match has shifted. What began as a test of Arsenal's resilience has quietly become a spotlight on whether ease can elevate them in Europe the same way he has in the Premier League. For Arteta, the equation is simple. If Arsenal are to overcome Bayern, they will need more than intensity. They will need control. They will need creativity. And increasingly, they will need the completeness ease brings to every phase of the pitch. Whether he starts in a wide role as a floating midfielder, or even as an interior playmaker, the expectation is the same. Ease will have to find the spaces others cannot, and influence the game in ways that statistics alone will not capture. The stakes are high, the opponent is formidable, and the spotlight is intense. But within the walls of London Coney, the belief is growing that this is exactly the kind of stage Eberechi Ease was signed for. Martin Odegaard is nearing a return to action after suffering a medial collateral ligament injury in Arsenal's 2-0 win over West Ham earlier in October. Yet, 3.5 years after Mikel Arteta named him captain, the Norwegian finds himself in an unfamiliar position. His place in the starting lineup is no longer guaranteed. For the first time since joining the club permanently from Real Madrid in August 2021, there is real debate over whether he remains an automatic choice for Arteta's 11. Odegaard, now 26, has been central to Arsenal's resurgence under Arteta, the conductor who shaped the team's rhythm through some of their most fluid football. But this season, the Gunners have been forced to navigate long stretches without their captain, first due to a shoulder issue that kept him out of 4 matches in September, and then because of the knee collision with West Ham's Crescencio Somerville that sidelined him again. And during his absence, something significant happened. Eberechi Ease stepped into the spotlight. Ease's sensational hat-trick in the North London Derby has complicated the picture. Now thriving in a central role, the England international has given Arsenal a different kind of presence around the edge of the box. A blend of unpredictability, directness, and two-footed confidence that opponents struggle to contain. He may not control games with the same metronomic precision as Odegaard, but he offers a spark, a willingness to take risks at moments when Arsenal need a jolt of creativity. After such a standout performance against Tottenham, it feels almost impossible to imagine Arteta leaving Ease out. The manager has always had a soft spot for players riding a wave of confidence, and Ease is currently surfing at full height. There was a similar situation back in September, when Mikel Merino was handed a start against Manchester City after scoring 4 times in 2 games for Spain, including a hat-trick against Turkey. Arteta doesn't hesitate to reward form. Ease has carried that form onto the international stage as well, recently scoring a stunning goal for England in a 2-0 win over Serbia in the World Cup qualifiers at Wembley. Though he can play on the left, it has always been clear that Arteta brought him to the Emirates to operate in midfield. And with Declan Rice and Martin Zubamendi near untouchable in the double pivot, the odds of Ease and Odegaard consistently starting together seem slim. That leaves Odegaard in an unfamiliar position. He needs minutes to rebuild sharpness, yet Arsenal's medical team won't rush him. The plan is likely to ease him back through short substitute appearances before restoring him to larger roles. But even once fully fit, Odegaard faces genuine competition, because Ease has shifted the landscape. His arrival has raised the team's ceiling, and his performances have earned him the right to keep his place. Before the dismantling of Tottenham, Ease had scored only twice for Arsenal, one against Port Vale in the Carabao Cup and another versus his former club Crystal Palace, a clever finish that sealed victory. Now, with 5 goals across all competitions, he sits just 1 behind Odegaard's total from last season, when the captain made 45 appearances. Odegaard's 2023-24 numbers were outstanding: 11 goals, 12 assists, influence written across every competition. That is the standard he must match again if he wants to reclaim his spot, because Ease is hungry, confident, and eager to impress ahead of next summer's World Cup. Arteta will insist that Arsenal need both players at their best if they are to meet their ambitions in the months ahead. And with Kai Havertz also working his way back to full fitness, potentially slotting into midfield behind marquee striker Victor Gyökeres, the battle for places has never been fiercer at the Emirates. For Odegaard, the message is clear: he must rise to the challenge. His leadership and quality remain unquestioned, but he can no longer rely on reputation alone. If he embraces the competition and fights his way back into the side, his return could push Arsenal to even greater heights. And if the team has already reached this level without several key figures, the potential for what comes next may be even greater. Inside the club, staff members are quietly acknowledging that Arsenal are entering a new phase, one where no player, not even the captain, is immune to tactical evolution. Arteta has spent the past 2 seasons building a squad capable of sustaining pressure across multiple competitions, and the emergence of ease is a sign that the manager's long-term planning is beginning to bear fruit. Depth is no longer a luxury, it is a necessity. But with depth comes difficult decisions. Arteta has always valued balance in midfield, and the contrasting profiles of Odegaard and Ease force him to reconsider what type of midfield best suits the team's ambitions in Europe and the Premier League. The technical control and spatial awareness that Odegaard brings have defined Arsenal's identity under Arteta. Conversely, Ease's dynamism, physical presence, and unpredictable touches give Arsenal a new dimension, especially against teams that sit deep or defend aggressively in central areas. This internal shift has also caught the attention of analysts and former players. Several pundits have begun to question whether the captaincy should guarantee a place in the lineup, especially at a club with ambitions of challenging for the Champions League. Others argue that Odegaard's leadership is too valuable to sideline, pointing to the standards he sets in training and his influence over younger players. Those debates are already spilling into the media, and they will only intensify as the season progresses. There is also the tactical question of whether Arteta might eventually experiment with a system that accommodates both Ease and Odegaard, something he briefly attempted earlier in the season during the win over West Ham. But with Rice and Zubimendi forming an almost impenetrable midfield pairing, any reshuffle risks destabilizing the defensive structure that has made Arsenal one of the most resilient teams in the league. The manager has hinted that he is open to adjustments, but only if they enhance the team's overall cohesion. For Odegaard himself, the challenge is as much psychological as it is physical. He has worked hard to cultivate an image of calm authority, a leader who raises the level of those around him through clarity and consistency. Now he must show that he can adapt, compete, and respond to adversity. His teammates still speak of him with admiration, describing him as one of the most studious and detail-oriented players at London Coney. They believe that once he regains full rhythm, he will naturally reassert his influence. Yet even they acknowledge that the landscape has shifted. One senior player privately remarked that, "The team is different now, Ease has changed what we can do in the final third." That sentiment reflects not a lack of faith in Odegaard, but an understanding that Arsenal have evolved while he has been sidelined. For Arteta, the ideal scenario is straightforward, a fully fit Odegaard competing with a fully confident Ease, creating a level of internal competition that lifts the entire squad. The manager often speaks about the need for healthy tension among his players, pressure that keeps standards high without fracturing unity. The arrival of Victor Gyökeres, combined with the recovery of Havertz, only amplifies that dynamic. Arsenal's season will almost certainly hinge on these midfield decisions. With Champions League knockout matches approaching and the Premier League title race tightening, Arteta must decide not only who starts, but what kind of identity he wants his team to carry into the defining months of the campaign. The next few weeks will reveal whether Odegaard's return sparks a resurgence or a battle for relevance. If he manages to reclaim his place, it could serve as a reminder of why Arteta trusted him with the armband in the first place. If he struggles, it will underline how rapidly Arsenal are progressing, and how little room there is for sentiment at the highest level. Either way, the captain's response will shape not just his future, but the trajectory of a team that believes it is on the brink of something significant.